something in there on Monday, whether it be her credit cards. Did they find her credit cards, her card on Monday? I don't know.
I have, of course, talked very, very fondly of course, the search teams and law enforcement here, but I can't help but wonder if this indictment on a relatively minor charge compared to murder.
It's a felony.
It is. Okay, it is a felony on a relative to homicide.
Right.
Unauthorized use or use of unauthorized access devices. This charge here, this charge that is not a homicide charge. It's not a murder charge. Could this have come down when Chief Todd Garrison of Northport Police looked into the cameras and said, "We know where Brian is"? Because if this could have come down when they said, "We know where Brian is," then you could have come in with a federal arrest warrant and gotten him right into Northport Police and held him on this.
I would just tell you, I trust the feds in something like this and believe that they would have done it then if they could have done it then. And if they may, perhaps, I mean, maybe the more likely scenario is they search the house on Monday, they find something, and a light bulb goes off. Hey, wait a minute. Let's get them on that. Let's have that so that and perhaps what this does it release other resources somehow? Does it somehow involve other resources? Does it involve, he's now is he a federal fugitive from justice? He hasn't been adjudicated. I don't know if that involves some other investigative tools that would push this search a little farther. But as Allison Henning has reported, they're looking pretty hard out there in that wooded area. I'm not sure how much, I don't know if more manpower helps them out there or not. I guess it does.
Some video from earlier from Eagle 8 HD, some of the video of them going through Carlton Reserve looking for Brian Laundrie. This remains the focus. The only difference now is that if they find him out here, they can put handcuffs on him, provided that, of course, he is alive here. So I'm with you, Walt. I am. As much as I sounded skeptical there for a moment, I'm with you that I believe that if this federal indictment could have come down sooner, that it would have. And I believe that the FBI is, of course, doing everything that they can to bring this to as expeditious of a resolution here as possible. But the fact of the matter is that there are going to be a lot of people here online that are just saying that are just not satisfied with where we are with the Justice for Gabby cause right now, and that this is I'm very curious to know if I got arrested on this, how long am I going away? How long am I in a federal prison for?
Up to 15 years.
Up to 15 years?
But I assume that would be
for $1,000.
Not for $1,000, but a charge is up to 15 years. But I would assume that would involve much more than a couple of credit cards or debit cards.
Just a roller coaster of a live stream. We were talking about the $20,000 reward here a moment ago that has been put out here by a Tampa attorney. What's the name of the attorney one more time, Walt? Do you have it in front of you by any chance?
Buhoff?
Buhoff Law. Yes, Buhoff Law in Tampa is offering a $20,000 reward for any information that leads to Brian Laundrie's whereabouts. We also have, of course, the parents returning home from Orlando for a mysterious trip for unknown reasons. We don't know why they went to Orlando, but given the circumstances, given the zoo that is outside of their front, right on their front lawn, pretty much, you're not going to Orlando to go to Universal and hang out. You're going there for a very particular reason, and we don't know exactly what that reason is at this time. News Nation's Brian Enton, many other reporters were shouting at them, or maybe not even shouting, just, very, very loudly speaking in their direction, asking them, why did you go to Orlando? And of course, they're not answering any questions from the media. They went right in. And if the federal arrest warrant news isn't enough, we also just got in a new development several minutes ago that the Northport Police Department now, their search is off for tonight. Nothing has been found at Carlton Reserve here, an exhausting search effort here. And that Joshua Taylor, the Northport Police PIO, who we've been talking about here on WFLA Now, says that they'll be back at it tomorrow, same time. So there was some uncertainty as to whether or not a Friday search would occur. And right now, they're saying that they are going to be back at it tomorrow, and perhaps it's because they received information here that that there is now a federal arrest warrant in the name of Brian Christopher Laundrie. Yeah. What do we have?
So that pointed out here that it was dated September 22nd. So they
Oh.
just released it today. By the way, somebody online pointed out, and I'm going to just say duh, but it's a great point. We were talking about the $1,000. He very well could have gotten $1,000 in cash.
Yep.
For his trip back.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense.
Could have gotten 2, 3,
Got him for
4,000.
1,000.
It's
He gets
more than
cash.
1,000. More than
He
1,000.
gets cash and he heads back with cash, thinking they can't follow his trail, although they weren't trailing him. So it didn't matter, right?
I don't.
He might still be using that 1,000. We don't know.
Here's what I just can't figure out with this story. And this is just me, and I'm taking you inside of my brain here for a second. Here's what I can't figure out with this story. I don't know if Brian Laundrie is smart or stupid. I don't with this new. I don't know what to make of this. I don't know if to make if this was a shrewd move. And many of the commenters that have been joining us here on WFLA Now have said that you can't be stupid in 2021 and just vanish off the grid like he has. That there had to have been a lot of. Again, it's so hard to just completely disappear and vanish when the FBI and local law enforcement is on your scent, so to speak. It's just so hard to vanish. Poof, gone. Yeah. But at the same time here, if this is true, using a card that he wasn't authorized to use, a debit card that he wasn't unauthorized to use, is this really a bad misstep that makes you go, okay, does it make our commenters now say, okay, Brian Laundrie isn't as smart as we thought he was because he clearly made a big miscalculation here using a debit card, a Capital One card that he wasn't authorized to use. Well, I don't know if the guy's stupid or smart.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think that like pulling $1,000 out at one time when Gabby could have been theoretically alive and authorized it might be smarter than going across the country with the card and leaving a trail, I guess. So I don't know if that's what he did, if he did the cash thing and didn't buy airplane tickets or something else, who knows? But,
yeah, I
you
think
bring up a point. Look, and by the way, he's smart enough to have escaped law enforcement and any sort of scrutiny for weeks, right? Because we're talking a smaller window of when she possibly died, now kind of shrunk down to, just by what we know, to the 27th, 28th, and 29th. That's the window now. Maybe it's the 25th if the mom's suspicion about that text message about the grandfather is accurate. Regardless, it is now the 23rd. He has avoided law enforcement for that long, and he's avoided a search for up until 6 days ago. So he was smart enough to do that. And I also would say, we've talked about this. Look, you and I are looking at this. It's our job. And our wives, I think we've shared that, are looking at it because they perhaps identify with her in some way and they just think it's horrible what happened. But not everyone is looking at it. I would never assume. I talked to an attorney today. He hasn't been following it. He's been working. There's a lot of people who aren't looking at it. So, and with that in mind, he could slip through the dragnet. I think there's that absolute possibility. Stranger things have happened. You don't agree?
You know who isn't stupid? Our viewers. And let me tell you something. I'm not playing to the masses here. We have a large audience.
No, I hear you.
Large audience. I'm not playing to the masses. I promise you. Everyone, if you've been listening to me now for the last several days or more than a week now, as we've been live on the story, you know that I keep it straight with you. I just want to thank our commenters one more time. I just added a bunch of comments here to the queue. Brilliant questions. I mean, really, really brilliant questions. We do this Walt and I do this for a living. We cover stories and we break down, fact versus fiction and what we know and what we don't know. But there's some outrageously brilliant comments that are coming in that can now carry this conversation forward. And we're going to do that starting now with some of the hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt comments that are coming in here. Jenny, we've had I hope you're right there. We've had your profile picture there on screen for a while there. Again, use hashtag HeyJB or hashtag HeyWalt and we can animate your comment. And yes, it shows your picture on screen here. If you don't want us to do that, again, you don't want to be on a news stream with tens of thousands of people watching. We have more than 100,000 people watching us right now across all of our platforms. The number, I think my computer's broken because I can't give you a number across all platforms right now. But we have a lot of people watching. If you don't want your your name and your comment and your picture on screen. Just don't use a hashtag. But if you do, if you'd like for us to feature your comment, use hashtag HeyJB and hashtag HeyWalt. Let's okay. Back to here. I like holding something. Can I have the indictment?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, that's not the
That one there, right?
That's
I like having a document in my hand. It's the
shortest
only
indictment ever.
Yeah, maybe I'm just very attached to this and I just need it in my hand, but I'm holding on to it here so I can read it to you here, folks. But a big shout out to Alexis, our digital content producer, because she pointed out that this was filed. Yes. And then Walt read it. This was filed yesterday. So now to Tori Lynn Brewer's comment here, hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt. Now that there's a federal warrant, can they question his parents? Because if this is filed yesterday in court, an indictment in the District of Wyoming, could the trip to Orlando, and I'm asking here, could the trip to Orlando have been to answer questions pertaining to a federal arrest warrant and a federal indictment in the name of their son?
Then you ask why Orlando. It could be though. There's no doubt it could be Orlando. Is the Denver office the office doing the questioning? They're the lead office, but why not come to Tampa?
Why not?
That could be a flight issue. You've got an easier flight to Orlando.
Not to mention, if it is potentially a safety risk for them to leave their home, there's been a lot of crazy people, following this story. Okay, I've read some of the comments. I get messaged privately, DMs on my WFLA JB accounts, people who are, they're very passionate, let's just say, about this story.
Good way to put it.
And it could be a safety risk for them to leave their home if somebody really wanted to do something really, really sinister here. Couldn't the FBI Denver or the FBI in general just sent an agent to the house to say, Mr. and Mrs. Laundrie, we have a federal arrest warrant for your son. We have an indictment here that was signed by an acting U.S. attorney in the District of Wyoming, U.S. District Court. We would like to talk to you about these new developments. Would you please sit down and have a conversation with us? Couldn't they have done that in the comfort of their own home, the Laundrie household, rather than making them drive to Orlando? So all the people out there that are saying that the trip to Orlando today might have been connected to this, does 2 + 2 not equal 4 in this particular case, Walt?
And all great questions, and I hate to say it, unanswerable right now.
Yep.
We do know from Joshua Taylor, and I don't know if we said this already, that the search will continue tomorrow. So they are not done out there, and that will be 5 out of the last. Is that the right math? 5 out of 6 out of the last 7 days. Tomorrow they will be searching the wooded area again.
Correct.
They're not done.
That is correct.
They are not done.
Again, the news that we just shared with you a moment ago, that there was some uncertainty whether or not the search would continue here at Carlton Reserve, the center of your screen, from Eagle 8 HD earlier on today, flying over that vast wilderness there where Brian Laundrie could be. We don't know if he is there, but it could be. And there was some uncertainty, whether or not they would continue the search on Friday. They have definitively said that they are going to be back tomorrow searching Carlton Reserve. This is a source of frustration for a lot of folks. A lot of people out there have been saying that that they don't think that Brian's there, and this is a waste of resources, manpower. There's no way that he is here based on where we are now in this story. And we understand, we hear your comments, but we don't know what the FBI knows as far as evidence that could lead them to be searching this area that heavily. An incredible amount of manpower and resources are combing through this dense wooded area of rural Sarasota County, Florida, near Venice. And you would think that this amount of resources being pooled into this one spot here of Carlton Reserve, 25,000 acres, by the way, leads us to believe here that they have something that leads
absolutely
something. Maybe, we had a comment earlier that we couldn't animate on screen because we ended our stream, but somebody said maybe one of the, we were talking earlier with Josh Benson, maybe one of the many trail cameras here in Carlton Reserve, maybe one of the many trail cameras did snap a picture of somebody that matches his description.
As many as 10 of those trail cameras, they capture wildlife. They very well could have captured Entman. I'm sorry. They could have captured Brian Laundrie.
Thank you. New developments. Brian Enton reporting from News Nation. News Nation, if you haven't heard of it, of course. Check your local listings. News Nation, a great product here, folks. Part of our parent company, Next Star Nation. Brian Enton on Twitter confirming why we have Brian Laundrie's parents traveling to Orlando today. And it was for legal reasons. And a name that we haven't brought up here on the stream in some time, Stephen Bertolino. That Brian Laundrie's parents drove to Orlando to meet with the attorney. Stephen Bertolino. So that's new just in here moments ago from Brian Enton on Twitter. What do you make of that, Walt? You deal with lawyers, you deal with attorneys. You are
he's a New York area attorney. Easiest flight might have been into Orlando, plus less scrutiny if you drive an hour or so. What is it from their house? Well, it's actually more like 2 hours.
I meant to look that up earlier here. Orlando
3 hours.
to Northport.
It's a 3-hour drive, but you do avoid the scrutiny and nobody knows. Although we did find out 2.5. So that's one reason, I guess, to avoid the scrutiny. Although you wonder why. I don't know. You wonder why at this point you're already being scrutinized. But
2.5
face-to-face conversation, obvious at some point necessary here. That's interesting because we've sort of gone to this world of Zoom. We Zoom every day, and you wonder why it needed to be face-to-face.
Very curious too. Did Mr. Bertolino want to meet with, and do we know that the Laundrie parents are his?
I don't think we do. We know
like
that
clients.
We know he is Brian Laundrie's attorney. Do we know that he's the attorney for the parents?
I don't know that, and I don't know that. And I had a very kind commenter reach me via private message and say that it might not be legal for an attorney to represent a married couple and their son. But I don't know if that's true. We'll have to look into that. I don't know if Stephen Bertolino just exclusively represents Brian Laundrie or if also represents Brian Laundrie and Brian Laundrie's parents here. If you drive from Northport to Orlando and you go through Tampa, where we are, it's 2.5 hours. That's the shortest way. If you avoid Tampa at all costs, it's 3 hours plus. Going through some of the other roads that would take you to the other side of Florida, closer to the East Coast where Orlando is. Or Orlando is kind of smack dab in the middle of the peninsula, but kind of more close to the east side, closer to like Daytona Beach. So we don't know what route they took. Regardless, they made it to Orlando to speak with Stephen Bertolino, who flew down from New York to speak with Mr. and Mrs. Laundrie today. So wow, again, another development here. Everything is this is a pretty, we went about a 36-hour period with few developments. Now we have a lot of developments and so much to talk about here with this case. 8 on your side, senior investigator Walt Buteau, JB Buno here with you live on WFLA Now. We're going to continue to take your questions and comments here. Walt, do you have dinner at home or a hot plate waiting for you?
I don't eat, JB.
What's that now?
I don't eat.
I haven't eaten. Do you know what I've eaten today? I'm gonna. This is candid. A few M&Ms. Alexis gave me some Swedish fish.
The M&Ms. I think there's some protein in those M&Ms. Are they peanut M&Ms?
No. I went milk chocolate. We haven't eaten. I've barely had. All the drinking water that I've been doing has been mostly on stream here. This has been a story that we have been. Again, we're commercial free here on WFLA Now. We don't go off until. We don't go off until we take enough questions and comments.
Right.
What were you saying?
I said we don't go off till you say we go off.
That's. I want to make sure that our commenters leave the live stream feeling like we address all of the different questions and comments that are coming in. And with that said, let's get right back into it here. Donovan Roos, #HJB. To be honest, I feel like they are wasting their time searching there. I feel it's just to throw them off. And we've heard this question or comment, rather, this observation or this opinion, really, so many times that there are people that are just, you can't tell them otherwise. Like the sky is blue, that Brian Laundrie isn't in Carlton Reserve. And I know that there are so many people that feel that way, but we don't know what the FBI knows. Kate Roper, hashtag HJB. Could this have to do with the FBI determining the time of death?
Solid speculation there.
And I was addressing, our commenters earlier, Walt, about
sort of talked about that.
The excellent comments and questions are coming in, Kate, right on the money here. Could the time of death in the autopsy being performed on Gabby Petito's remains now open up avenues for federal indictments like this one?
To elaborate on that, I think the theory would be because if they know when she died, then they know that she could not have authorized those transactions, $1,000 in transactions, right?
Right.
And we know what, again, give me the transaction dates, 30th. Okay. I'm still a little.
This is why I wanted this in my hand.
The date is odd, right? The 30th and the 1st. Isn't he back on the 1st? Is that accurate? Do we know he was back on the 1st? How do we know he was back on the 1st? Well, how do we know that?
That's an excellent question. I need to go back into my timeline. I'm going to go to WFLA.com.
So is he not back on the 1st? 30th and 1st, right? Is that what it says? 30th and 1st? No, it would be 31st and 1st.
30. No, wait. I remember from elementary school. August has 31 days in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, I remember the riddle. August. So it is I'm sorry. It's a period of 3 days.
30th.
I said 2 days earlier. And so maybe I don't remember my elementary school
30th,
learning.
30th
30th through the 1st.
So 30th, so 3 days. And if you believe the text involving the reference to Stan, that's on the 27th. So Gabby is maybe alive on the 27th, plus an eyewitness account reported to another news agency that there was a fight, a pretty bad fight in a restaurant on the 27th. And now we have the 28th and the 29th. If they can nail down that cause of death, I don't know. That science fascinates me. Because the body, if that's the case, she had been dead 19, 20, 21 days. If they were able to nail that down, they somehow now know that he was not authorized to use those cards during that 3-day period.
This is from WFLA.com, the WFLA app here. I'm going to read this as follows. September 1st, Laundrie returns home to Florida. Northport Police, the lead agency in the Gabby Petito missing person investigation, said Brian Laundrie returned to his parents' home with the van on September 1st. So that's according to Northport Police. But as people have been noting,
how do they know? Do they know it by what they were told? And that's interesting. And they're not answering our questions. How do they know he was there on the 1st? He's just Brian Laundrie at that point.
1 second here, folks.
Gabby's not even missing at that point.
We're going to come back here. We're going to go to black here for just a moment. Okay. We have so many viewers that were on the verge of breaking things. I'm not exaggerating here. We have a lot of viewers here, so many viewers here that we're tapping into across all social media platforms here that our system needs to reset. It's a true story. We're going to go to black here for about 12 seconds. Please don't leave. We'll continue the conversation here, but it's just so that we don't spontaneously disconnect like we did the other day. So we're going to go down here for just a moment. You'll see black on your screen, and we'll be back and we'll be able to take your questions and comments here live. Don't go anywhere. All right, and we're back here with you out of black here, folks. And again, thank you for being patient with us. It's because we didn't expect to have this much of an audience here tonight. So that reset there helps us prevent a disconnect here going forward. The last thing that we want to do is lose you, our audience. We don't want it to spontaneously end here as far as our live streaming. So we're back here with you live, and we'll stay here with you live and continue to answer your questions. Walt is talking to one of our wonderful producers here at WFLA, that being Liz Hall. And again, getting back, Walt, kind of refresh. I was just resetting things. What were we just chatting about?
You and I?
Yes.
I think we're talking about the timeline.
Timeline, yes.
And that we have been told, look, I don't like to question police this way. And this is not criticism to them because they're like us. There was no surveillance on Brian Laundrie when he came back. He wasn't even a person of interest on the first.
Let's make this clear for our audience. September 1st
is when police say they were told he was back. We now know from this indictment that he is accused of unauthorized use of devices, as in credit cards, debit cards, during a 3-day period in Wyoming, unless somehow federal law says you used it a state over, which I don't think is the case. He's accused in the Wyoming district, which covers just Wyoming. He's accused of using someone else's credit cards on the 30th, 31st, and 1st. So how is he back here on the 1st? It does change the timeline, right? And it's a question we asked Josh Taylor. You know, how do you know he was back on the 1st? And let's, again, not the parents. I don't know. The parents didn't tell police till last Friday that Brian hadn't been seen since Tuesday. And somehow the chief knew last Thursday. He told us a week ago that when he was asked, do you know where Brian Laundrie is? He said one word, yes.
Yes.
Right? So how did he know? Was it because he was told or because they had eyes on him and they lost him? We don't know the answer to that.
Here's what every viewer right now at home watching is screaming. I know, because we've been covering this story now for more than a week, and I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on our audience. If they didn't have eyes on him and if they didn't know for in fact that he was there, then Brian could be anywhere.
Yeah. Right.
Anywhere.
Well, okay. But the feds are now leading this investigation and have been for a week.
But
I mean, I just have to believe that they know something that makes them want law enforcement out there in the middle of that video right there. Right?
I want to hold that thought. The Fox News interview, the Guthries say that they saw Brian at the house. And the time frame for that was about a week to a week and a half after he got back. So if Brian Laundrie is in fact, now the Guthries are the neighbors. Fox News did the interview last night live from their front lawn. It was an interview that of course I think a lot of folks watched, and it was a man and a woman, the Guthries, Mr. and Mrs. Guthrie, answering questions live on Fox News and saying that they saw Brian Laundrie come home, and then September 1st or so, and then a period of about about a week to a week and a half later, that's when they went on the camping trip. So let's bring up the next question and comment here on WFLA Now. And this one, thanks a lot, Kate, for your comment. That brings us up to Kathy. I've been speaking way too much. Kathy Jin Sutphin, #HeyJB. Where did Brian and his family go camping? Has anyone checked that location for Brian? And now again, if the Guthries see, that phone's ringing. You got it?
I got it. It's fine.
Okay. If the Guthries see Brian, and then Brian is no longer seen during that 3-day period. Brian is there and then he's not. And the turning point is that 3-day camping trip, if that is indeed true. And they said it was a weekendish trip. So that would put the timeline at around the 10th, 11th, 12th, somewhere in that time frame. The camping trip, then is that when Brian vanished? Is that when Brian disappeared and found a way to get out from under the nose of law enforcement? If he was at that time under the nose of law enforcement, which I know that many of you have been speculating that.
Well, he wouldn't have been, right? Because the 11th he is when she's reported missing. What is the date he became a person of interest? It wasn't on the 11th.
No. It was after that.
So
Petito reported missing on the 11th. Laundrie leaves leaves his home on the 14th, again according to police, with the hiking bag, and then he's named a person of interest on the 15th. So then there's no way that they were really keeping tabs on him at the time, right?
No.
We would have known by now if they were really keeping tabs on him. I think Josh Taylor, in the interview that we had almost a week ago now, he would have said that he was saying that in that interview that they weren't necessarily keeping active tabs on him because he was a just a person of interest, and the investigation really hadn't risen to that point at that time. So I don't know what this means now. I don't know what this means. We're gonna have to ask so many questions here now. New questions are brought into this equation.
Yeah, it definitely, in some ways it clears things up. I think it tightens the timeline. The day there were no points on the timeline for the days that of the 29th, 30th, and 31st. I'm sorry. Yeah, right? No. 29 30, 31st, and 1st, right? There's nothing on the timeline for that. We have the text message on the 27th. Odd, according to Nicole Schmidt, Gabby's mom. Odd text message. We have that on the 27th. And we have credit card activity on 3 days, probably in Wyoming. And then we have a sort of a conflict there where how is there credit card activity in Wyoming on the 1st if he's back in Florida on the 1st?
Well, here's what this means to me, Walt, because we were talking about how long it takes to drive, and we don't know if there was air travel. We don't know if air travel is a component here or a factor here in this investigation, really, for certain. What we know is that it takes about 35 hours to drive from Northwest Wyoming to Northport, Florida.
How many hours?
35 hours. That to me is a 3-day trip. So that's 11 to 12 hours of driving per day across 3 days. So did Brian Laundrie come home, drive August 30th, August 31st, September 1st, and return home matching the timeline? And over that period of time, use the Capital One debit card across state lines, making it a federal crime, a federal arrest warrant now being issued because it's occurring over state lines and occurring in multiple jurisdictions, but being filed in the District of Wyoming court.
When you say it like that, that's 100% possible. I think
that really adds
we
up.
We need a federal, and I know some former federal U.S. attorneys, and I can definitely reach out to them. That's totally plausible. That theoretically is the card taken from Wyoming, and that's why it is filed in Wyoming. Is it filed in Wyoming because the feds are in Wyoming? They can file anywhere they want.
Or does the crime work like this? If I steal your credit card, I'm a pal. But if I stole your credit card, and I went on a road trip, and I was like, man, I got this debit card. I'm going to spend all of Walt's money.
Do it.
And I start in Florida, and I hit up Alabama, and I hit up Mississippi, and I'm heading west, and then I'm going to hit up Texas. I'm going to go all the way out to California, hit up all these states across this trip.
You probably do get charged here. So that does make sense.
Would it be the first charge being in Florida? I first use your debit card. Is that where the district of jurisdiction would be?
Maybe it's from where the card is stolen. And we're not lawyers, nor do we pretend to be lawyers, but that does make sense, and it makes more sense. The cash theory makes sense as well, but then you still have to ask, how do we know he was back on the 1st?
We don't.
We don't know.
We're taking Northport police at their word,
and they're more than likely they could be taking the family's word as well on that.
Yeah, and let's just be very honest and candid with our viewers. I have never had to dissect a federal arrest warrant for use of unauthorized access devices all that much in the past. It's not. No. This is a very obscure federal crime.
I love cases like that because now the next time that charge comes across my desk, I'll be able to say, oh, that's credit card fraud, and people will go, wow, how do you know that? And here's why. I also would say that's the shortest indictment I've ever seen. Is it 1 page?
One page.
It's not even a full page.
This is it.
Not a lot of details.
I got rid of the white space. I even bent it. I mean, it's 1 page.
It's a one-page indictment. Very quick.
And so, again here, I want to make this clear. It's the federal arrest warrant for Brian Christopher Laundrie is for use of unauthorized access devices, which is a fancy way of saying you took someone's card.
It's credit card fraud.
Credit card fraud. You took someone's card, didn't have their permission, and you started spending money.
By the way, in that federal statute, as you read the whole thing, there are other things it could involve, including other types, not just credit cards. But in this case, we now know it's credit card fraud.
Let's get to some more questions here.
Alleged credit card fraud.
Alleged credit card fraud. Thank you. Very astute of you. And yes, alleged credit card fraud. Let's get to some more here. Amber Brock, hashtag Hey Walt, for you. Do you know how many transactions he made and which kind?
No, we don't. We know the total, though. The total is what, $1,000?
$1,000 aggregated.
$1,000 aggregated, which would lead you to believe it's more than one, correct?
Yeah, because hold on. Yeah, back to what I was saying earlier. If we're playing the words game here and really dissecting this by literally every character of this indictment, that I'll read it again. Capital One bank debit card and a personal identification number, the PIN, 4-digit PIN likely, for a Capital One bank account or Capital One bank accounts, and by such conduct obtained things of value aggregating to $1,000 or more during that period. Which, listen, this could, to Walt's point, this could be a $1,600 cash withdrawal from an ATM, or this could be a spending spree. More than $1,000.
Or gas, to your point, that it's filed in. I mean, because I guess when you think about it, what are you going to do? You're not going to file in every jurisdiction that he uses it, right? You're going to pick one jurisdiction. I feel relatively ignorant for even suggesting that it was all spent in Wyoming. But yeah, you bring up a good point. You're going to file in one jurisdiction. You're not going to file in every single jurisdiction that he crosses. You're going to file in that one. So it could very well be, and it logically means it's how he got home. He used those credit cards to get home.
This was the lifeline to get him back to Florida.
Yes,
is what this leads us to.
Seems to believe.
What it seems to be.
Yes,
we're staying rooted in reality. Again and again, trying to break down what this could be and what this could not be. And that's what we do with our commenters here. We tell you what is within the realm of possible and what is outside the realm of possible. And there's so much on each side of those two equations. Each side of that equation. Let's continue to take some questions here, because again, our commenters here are right on the money. Amber, thanks a whole lot for your hashtag Hey Walt a comment here in the Facebook Live comment section, and we're taking comments and questions from Twitter and YouTube as well here. Cynthia Amaya, hashtag Hey JB. Doesn't it mean that he would have to be brought back to the U.S. if he's out of the country? Great question. So this is a federal arrest warrant. Now, okay.
We don't know he's out of the U.S., but yes.
Pretend time. If he is outside of the U.S., can this bring him back?
Oh, yeah, I would think that's what the question is. Does that? Yes. For using somebody else's card? There are countries that cooperate with us and countries that don't. And is that an extraditable offense? Is it good enough to be? Is it big enough? I don't know that. It does say it's a felony, and I would bet that amount of money, the $1,000, probably, if there is a misdemeanor in the federal system for that crime, then I don't even know if there are federal misdemeanors. I don't think I've ever covered a federal misdemeanor. But if the dollar amount usually makes something a felony or a misdemeanor, so I would think on a felony, is it extraditable? I don't know. I think
back to the analogy that we were just talking about. If I steal your credit card and I'm having a great time because I'm using your credit card and I'm going on a spending spree and taking up Florida, Alabama, Mississippi. I go all the way to Mexico. Okay. And then all of a sudden you realize your card is missing and you're out thousands of dollars. Can the Federal Bureau of Investigation, on the grounds of this federal arrest warrant and this federal indictment, call up Mexico and say JB Buno has been using Walt Buteau's card here and we want him back in the U.S. to prosecute?
I would imagine in that conversation there would be a discussion that he's a person of interest in a homicide. You're not, but that
I'm not in
Brian would be.
in this analogy.
And that could enhance that. I think if you just have someone on credit card fraud, I think even if it's extraditable, I would bet they have bigger fish to fry. But good question. I didn't get that out of it, but yeah, solid question. Yeah, that does theoretically help them with that.
Very interesting. An interesting comment and an interesting question here. Megan Walsh, #AJB, could definitely be cash. He allegedly offered those people $200 to drive him 10 miles.
Solid point.
Okay.
Solid point.
Let's talk about this now.
But maybe he already had cash. He just needed more cash. Could have been cash, though. That's true. That could be, that does sort of cover all our bases, right?
Walt, do you know how many 22 and 23-year-olds walk around with a whole wad of cash these days?
How about 42-year-olds and 52-year-olds? Nobody has cash anymore. When I've used cash in various places, they tell me now because of COVID, we don't have change. Like there's a lack of change. So yeah, you're right. That's a good point.
It's almost weird if you do carry around cash these days.
Right.
And so if Brian Laundrie was either given advice or if he was, he was cognizant enough of what had happened, and we don't know what happened, but cognizant enough of everything that was around him at the time and what he was currently going through at that time, if he knew he needed cash, then the TikTok video of the woman saying, I gave Brian Laundrie a ride, and we talked about that on a previous live stream. And we said that there's nothing to say that that is true other than this woman's word. And there's nothing to say that it isn't true. But if that's the case, if what Megan is saying here with this comment and what you were saying earlier, if Brian Laundrie goes to the ATM, withdraws a whole lot of cash from, again, a card that we don't know whose card it is, but I think people are, of course, already theorizing whose card it is. If he takes all of this cash, then he has the ability to, yes, pay people for rides and pay with cash. So does that add up now? Does that pushes it more, that wrinkle of this story more towards the realm of possible versus the realm of
somebody
impossible?
tweeted at me, and I'm not going to say their name, but it's interesting, and I'll look this up tomorrow. WFCN News out of Marion, Illinois. By the way, I used to work. That was my first job in television in the Marion area. Marion, Illinois. Well, it was Harrisburg, Illinois.
You said Illinois. I thought you said Maryland.
No, Marion, Illinois.
Okay.
And by the way, Marion's claim to fame is they have a federal prison there. I think it's a level 5. It's one of the only level 5s, I think, in the country, if I recall correctly. And Ray Fosse, the former Major League Baseball player, is from there. But it's getting late. I'm going nuts here. Anyway, here's what he says. WFCN News posted Monday of 2 separate reports from gas station employees in Benton, Illinois. That's Southern Illinois, by the way. That is Southern Illinois, where the Mississippi meets the Ohio. That FBI agents were requesting security camera footage in relation to the investigation. The reports indicate that Brian Laundrie may have used at least one card to purchase gasoline. #HeyJB. I stole your #HeyJB, but you've got a lot of them over there.
Thousands that we couldn't get to if we had months to get to every question and comment that are coming in. Curious.
It is interesting, and it's interesting we hadn't seen that report, right?
Yeah, and this is this is what happens now. So what's going to happen? All of this is now, as the saying goes, when you take a little ball of snow at the top of the hill and you push it down the hill, it gets pretty big, pretty quick, pretty fast. So now that things are starting to move here, this could be a very interesting 24 hours. Very, very interesting here. So we're going to stay here with you live on WFLA Now for a little bit longer here. We've been live all day here, but we're going to be back with you here live on WFLA Now tomorrow to continue breaking down what we know. Walt and I haven't had an opportunity to step away and just kind of process this without a microphone in front of our face just yet. So there's a lot, I'm sure, legal experts. I've been receiving text messages here on my phone, legal experts that are on standby to break down what this means and what this is and what this could be.
And let me plug the story that I worked on today, which was about legal experts, because we got a lot of questions about these things. That a couple things I want to point out, that Florida law does not allow parents cannot be charged as accessories after the fact under Florida law if your child is involved in the crime. Florida law, it's very specific. You cannot be charged accessory after the fact. And accessory after the fact means exactly what we think it means. You helped him after after the crime was over. You cannot be charged accessory after the fact. So that nails that down. Also, parents, nobody, me, you, JB, nobody has any obligation to tell anybody where their child went, where their child is, where their child was. And that goes for, I don't have the obligation, even if you're not related, you are no legal obligation to tell anybody about anything when police come asking you questions. The one thing that there is the federal statute may open the door to charge accessory after the fact when a child is involved, but then there's a jurisdictional issue which could get a little fuzzy here. Where is an alleged crime committed? And I want to say we're speaking hypothetically here, obviously. And then the other thing that someone could be charged with hypothetically, and there's no exemption for, is not telling the truth to law enforcement, or obviously getting rid of evidence. A parent hypothetically can be charged with that, even if their child is involved. But again, people are asking, why can't they charge them as an accessory? Why, or can a parent be charged as an accessory? No, that's state law. And the other point would be that a civil lawsuit, the rules are a little different, and there could very well be a wrongful death civil lawsuit filed by the parents of Miss Petito, and that could be aimed at Brian or possibly the parents, according to lawyers.
Man, let's take this next question comment here from Michael Whitfield. Nice catch, Michael. By the way, he's got the holding up the fish for his Facebook friends. #HeyJB. Wouldn't theft of Gabby's van be part of that warrant that's unauthorized use? We talked to Northport Police, or they had a press conference, and they said that there wasn't enough on the van to charge with the van. But, we didn't ask the FBI, whether or not taking someone else's vehicle, grand theft auto, if you will, and driving it across state lines and leaving without that person, and taking their vehicle without explicit written permission or verbal even permission. We don't know if that's a federal crime or not. And, that would have been very, very interesting if there was multiple charges here. But you file charges that stick.
Well, let me
must stick.
Let me just say this. And again, so the van's a little more, that scenario is a little jankier, if you will, in that we don't know that she didn't authorize him to use the van, right? He was authorized to use the van. He's been driving it for weeks. So we don't know she didn't authorize to use the van. Now, and once she's no longer with us or whatever happened there, that may be a more difficult case to prove than we know she was gone and yet her credit cards were still being used, or we have pictures of him using said credit cards, which sort of plays into this report I was told about from WFCN that indicates in Benton, Illinois, there were reports that Brian Laundrie may have used at least one credit card to purchase gasoline there. So now like you said, you file charges that stick. That charge is going to stick. It still raises the question, why this charge now? Yep. Why not the more serious charge? And all we can say about that is we would presume there isn't enough evidence to file a more serious charge.
Again, Gabby Petito's name is not in this indictment. It's not in the federal arrest warrant.
Neither is the word homicide or murder or whatever it would be.
Yep. This is not connected to Gabby's death right now. This is a charge for unauthorized use of a Capital One debit card. And, but this could be one of the first of several, depending on where this investigation goes, of course, as far as charges. But this doesn't change too much. This doesn't change. This changes that if they find him, they can slap handcuffs on him right away. But it doesn't change the fact that we still are no closer, really, or at least we are aware of, we're no closer to finding Brian.
He's still a person of interest in the homicide.
He hasn't been,
He's still, right?
He's not a suspect.
He is a suspect in this particular case, although the feds don't call him that. But in the homicide, he is a person of interest. He's a suspect in the credit card issue, but he's a person of interest in the homicide.
That's going to frustrate a lot of people. that he is still a person of interest in Gabby Petito's.
And I would bet there's a news agency out there somewhere that didn't dot their I's and cross their T's that has called him a suspect in the homicide, because it all happened so quickly. And if you didn't read that news release carefully, and if you didn't wait for, we have, our coworkers who are very sharp. Alexis, obviously, coming to us with the actual indictment, which was huge because that told quite a story, right?
It did. And when we first had the breaking news alert here live on WFLA Now, we said that there was a federal arrest warrant. We said that Brian was, now the subject of a federal arrest warrant in his name. We never said he was a suspect. We brought it up. We said, does this make him a suspect now? And then it came out about 10 minutes later that the charge was use of unauthorized access devices. And then we had to wait for the indictment to come down because it spells out that it was pertaining to a Capital One debit card and having the PIN number for 2 accounts. Let's talk about that. We haven't talked about that. How do you?
I know my wife's PIN number.
I was going to ask.
I think she knows my PIN number.
I think my wife knows mine.
Yeah.
I think I know my wife's.
You're on a trip somewhere. I mean, I can see that happening. So yeah.
I would imagine. So listen, these two are in engagement now. Listen, we're skirting here with what we know on this particular indictment. There's nothing in here that says that the debit card belonged to Gabby Petito. There's nothing in here that says that the checking and debit accounts were in Gabby Petito's name. But a personal identification number for a Capital One a bank account that Brian Laundrie knew. He knew it. He was given it by somebody.
Yeah.
And so that again, another wrinkle here to this story.
To a story with a lot of wrinkles.
Kelly Lindsay, #AJB. I don't understand why they aren't searching where they went camping. And
they may not know where they went camping.
Or
right?
They do, and they are searching that area right here in the center of your screen.
Right. That's right.
Well, but we don't know what adds up and doesn't add up. So
right.
My goodness, so much to comb through, so much to dissect. Walt.
And along the lines of, and we've been saying this, people keep asking, why haven't they said this? Why haven't they said that? Well, they just don't tell us everything. That's not how it works. And I will tell you that in this particular case, it shows that they don't tell us everything, because that indictment came down yesterday and the news release came down today. That is not unusual with federal agencies. And do they have a reason for that? We don't know, but that's what happened in this case. This information was out there yesterday, but the release of it doesn't happen until today.
So folks, we are going to be stepping away from the microphone here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. We're going to expel what we're doing now going forward. If you've been watching here for an extended period of time, we first and foremost appreciate you watching us here. We're always going to stay rooted in reality and separate fact from fiction. And you have my word, and I think I speak for Walt here as well, that we are going to, of course, compassionately and accurately tell this story, and we're going to do it here in the moment. We were live on stream when this news came down, and we've been breaking it down here. We've had microphones in front of our faces here now since this news came down. We are going to be stepping away from the microphones here, but that doesn't mean here that the work stops now. In fact, the work is just getting started, really, for our team here at WFLA News Channel 8 and on WFLA Now. So what this means is, folks, we're going to be stepping away from our live stream coverage. And what we're going to do, I know that we have an enormous audience. I know that we have more than 100,000 people watching. So it's a very sizable audience, and we appreciate you spending part of your Thursday night here with us. But we are going to take way more #HeyJB, #HeyWalt, all the hashtag questions that we can animate on screen. We're going to take more of those when coverage resumes on WFLA Now tomorrow. Our coverage plan is still coming through here. And I know that we have a lot of folks, Walt, you've been talking about it. We have a lot of folks joining us from the UK, from Germany, from Australia. You were getting some
Norway,
weird phone calls from Russia earlier. Are you really Walt Buteau, by the way? Like you are who you say you are, right?
I am.
Walt's on a previous live stream. His phone was ringing off the hook, and it was some activity from Russia. We didn't know what that was about, but I think we're finding out a little bit more about that. Anyway, point being is, this is a international audience. There have been people who have messaged me privately saying, "Hey, JB, I live in this country, and I can only get minor updates here because it's not huge in my country, but I am locked into this story. When and where can I watch you? So I'm going to let our viewers here know that we are going to continue our interactive coverage here of the story and all the new developments. And if this was an action-packed evening here as far as development, so much happening from the reward to the trip to Orlando to the federal arrest warrant being issued to the search now not being TBD for tomorrow, but we're going to have more of a search effort tomorrow at Carlton Reserve. So much has happened here, and we're going to continue to comb through it tomorrow, Friday, on WFLA News Channel 8, on WFLA Now, and on, of course, all of our platforms here where we stream. So what that means now going forward, we're going to step away from the microphones here, but we're just now going to really start to get to work here. And we really hope that you join us tomorrow. And I promise you have my word, across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, we will take more of your questions and comments using the hashtags here on your screen. Okay, so then the next question is, JB, when are you live tomorrow? I spoke to my team members here. It's going to come together. Our coverage is going to come together. We have a lot of folks that are going to be part of our coverage tomorrow, and it's going to be a live stream where we're really going to bring in a whole lot of expertise here to answer your questions and to talk about what is fact and what is fiction and what is in the realm of possible and what is in the realm of impossible. And so that is going to come, I think we might start at 11 a.m. Eastern. We might start at noon Eastern. We're still figuring out the exact coverage plan tomorrow. We're not on TV, so it's not like we have to tell you, we have to be live at this time. We're on digital. We're online, so we can pick the time that we want. And follow me on WFLA JB Twitter, WFLA JB Facebook, and WFLA JB Instagram. I will post the exact time of our stream starting tomorrow. And you have my word here. We will know a whole lot more about exactly what this means legally here as far as the arrest warrant that has now been filed against Brian
JB,
Laundrie.
quick housekeeping note, just because now this was sent to me by a viewer. I think she tweeted at us too, but this is a great, sometimes we're not remembering every single detail. The search warrant stated that the van's license plate was red. I don't know what search warrant she's referring to. The van's license plate was red on 75 coming back through Northport 9/1 at 10:26 a.m.
Right.
So it's not just the word of police or the parents. So that is a 9/1. So now it mystifies us a little bit. Although I guess if he used the credit card on 9/1 somewhere, right? Or if he
in
used
Florida.
So that brings us back to the credit card theory, correct?
What do you mean?
I'm sorry.
No, please.
Brings us back to not taking $200 or $1,000 out in Wyoming, but use a string of uses that simply was
originated potentially in Wyoming,
filed in Wyoming.
Yes, back to
great. I appreciate it. I won't say your name because you didn't say I could, but I thanked her online. Thank you for reminding me of that. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yes, and I also too forgot about the tag, of course, getting
cameras are everywhere.
Yeah,
JB.
they are.
Cameras are everywhere.
And to that point, the camper, people are asking, there had to have been Ring doorbell camera, traffic camera, surveillance camera somewhere that captured where the camper went. If the Guthries are right, this 3-day camping trip, there has to be video of that camper being towed somewhere. And that everyone's got cameras everywhere in the pockets, of course, on us, in our purses, on our front doors, on our everywhere. There's cameras everywhere, so someone knows where that camper went, or somebody has footage. And there's a reminder: $20,000 reward now. So maybe
25 if you can get both, right?
You can get both. So these rewards now that have been offered here, there's a monetary incentive for somebody maybe who has surveillance video or Ring doorbell video of the camper or of something else that shows where Brian Laundrie might be. There's incentive for them to come forward here and provide that and collect a 5-figure sum. And so we'll see where that goes. Again, the streaming coverage here on WFLA Now continues Friday, September 24th, 2021, with our entire team here at WFLA News Channel 8. I'd like to personally and professionally thank 8 on Your Side Senior Investigator Walt Buteau for extended coverage here, staying a little bit late past the hour here for us as far as what we normally do here, but nothing's normal here. These circumstances aren't normal. And if I didn't have to worry about my vocal cords, I would stay with you live here, folks, personally for another couple of hours. I really would. But I've been told here, my superiors here at WFLA have told me that, and if you joined us earlier in the week, my vocal cords were starting to go because of so much streaming coverage here, continuous nonstop coverage here. And so I've been told here to rest my vocal cords until tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow morning stream here. Follow me again on WFLA JB, Twitter, and Instagram, where I'll give you a heads up as to the exact time when we're going to go live with team coverage here on all these new developments on Brian Laundrie and, of course, really on Gabby Petito. The latest for you on WFLA.com. Our entire team here at WFLA News Channel 8 writing copy right now, articles for WFLA.com. We have the Gabby Petito, Brian Laundrie article hub there. Everything that we know is on WFLA.com and the WFLA app. If you're joining us on social media, you'll find the link in the description on this video, and you can click it. It'll take you over to one of our many articles there, and you can read the very latest here on Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie. We'll not stop here, folks, until we have, of course, more information here on this story, and our team is working around the clock to produce these articles. So if you're done listening to Walt and I, you can read the latest here on WFLA.com and the WFLA app. Big thanks to our team here at WFLA News Channel 8. Again, follow me, WFLA JB, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, where we'll announce the start of our coverage time tomorrow here on WFLA Now with the latest on Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie.